Hey, everybody, welcome back to the SuperBake podcast. I'm your host, SuperBake. Let's talk about stuff. I was going to do the review for Devil May Cry. I was going to break it up into two episodes per podcast, but I kind of binge watched the rest of the season, and it was kind of just easier for me to just do the entire rest of the season in this episode. So I'm just going to go ahead and do that. So this will be my review for episodes 3 through 8, and then just kind of my overall thoughts for the season. I'm not going to go over like each episode like individually, like the plot wise. I'll talk about like just specific examples from each episode, like things that I liked and didn't like. But I'm just going to kind of use them to talk about my overall thoughts for the season. But basically, as a whole, I would say I enjoyed aspects of Devil May Cry. There were things about it that I didn't like, and I'll kind of get into those here in a little bit. But yeah, I mean, overall, I would say I enjoyed it. As somebody who's not really a diehard Devil May Cry fan, it's I don't know if this is something that will appeal more to fans of the series. It's hard for me to say, but I mean, overall, I would say that I enjoyed it for the most part. Um, as far as like these episodes that I watched going into the season, to me, I felt like the first two episodes it got off to a kind of rocky start. Episode 3 and 4 felt like it was kind of the same. Like there were some pretty cool action sequences. Like in episode 3, we got like a really cool like highway chase scene. And there's this really cool scene in episode 4 where they're falling out of a plane and Dante's trying to save a bunch of people as they're falling to the ground. So there is some really cool action sequences throughout the season. And again, I do think that the animation has held up pretty well overall. Like there are definitely some really impressive scenes, especially towards like probably the last 3 episodes of the season for sure. I think for me, this season has been kind of slow to begin. I would say the first 2, 3, maybe 4 episodes are probably like the weakest part of the show. There's definitely some cool moments, like with Dante's Devil Trigger. He finally awakens his full Devil Trigger form in episode 4. And while I was not a huge fan of how it looked, it's still that 3D animation. It looks kind of like how he looked in the original games. I looked it up from like on Google just to kind of see because I had to refresh my memory of like what his Devil Trigger looked like. It's been a long time since I played those games. And I mean, it design wise, it looks kind of like it, at least from what I could find from Google images. It's just the 3D animation just looks, I can't get it out of my head. It just doesn't look that good. There's a bunch of like 3D demons that Dante fights in episodes 3 and 4 and stuff, and like they just don't look good. Like the red and blue demon, they don't look that great. Like their voice actors are fine. They're kind of comical. Like I like there's this little scene where they're fumbling around with like this DVD trying to get it to work on this TV, and because they're demons, I guess they don't understand human technology. That was kind of funny. Like the comedy kind of hits sometimes. It's hit and miss with the comedy. But yeah, like I mean, overall, like the 3D animation, I'm not a fan of. It doesn't look good. Hopefully, like I know they've announced that there is going to be a second season. Apparently, they've already been working on it. I don't know if there's a release date yet. Hopefully, that's something that they work on in season 2. But yeah, like the 3D animation, not a big fan of that. Even on like Dante's design, when he's in Devil Trigger mode, doesn't look that good. I will say though, I think the last 3 episodes of the season, I think to me were where it really hit its stride, particularly episode 6. I think episode 6 was probably my favorite. I don't remember the name of the episode, but we get a cool flashback from Lady's character, or Mary, I guess is her real name. And we see her past and kind of where her animosity towards demons comes from. And we see like she has this connection with the White Rabbit character. And I'm not going to spoil anything there in case you haven't seen the show. I'll kind of let you watch the show for yourself and kind of see like what their connection is. But there is a connection between the two characters. But the the flashback episode to me was probably the best one. It's pretty much almost no dialogue. I think there's like a little bit towards the end, maybe here and there throughout the middle, but like we see Mary's past and her father and how her father became obsessed with demons and injected himself and became a demon himself. And we see there's this other character who's a human who goes into the demon world. And what I really liked about it was when we see Mary's past, we get these two different animation styles between her and the other human character. Hers, the animation looks like it's black and white, and it has kind of like this they use like this weird line effect on like their hair that I really liked. It's like on like the dark shading in the animation that I really enjoyed. Like I'm a sucker for animation, so that stuff was really cool to me. The other animation was almost like it was much more kid-like. It was I don't know how to describe it. It reminds me of something. It reminded me of like this anime or not this animated show. I think it's on YouTube. Is it what is it called? Hell's Hotel or something like that? It kind of reminds me of that a little bit. I might be butchering the name, but just the look of it, it like I love the colors, the way the colors pop. I love the thick line designs of the characters. Like that whole sequence was really cool. And seeing the background for this character and how he meets these demons, and then seeing when we find out who he is and like what his connection to the overall story is, that was a pretty cool like moment in this show. I actually really liked that. So episode 6 for me was the standout episode. If I were to judge the entire season on that episode alone, I would say that the season was really well done. The episodes that follow afterwards, 7 and 8, were still really good. Just, I think 6 was probably the peak of this episode. And then it kind of starts to go a little bit downhill. But again, I do think episodes 7 and 8 were definitely much better for the most part than the first episodes and the earlier episodes in the season. Episode 7, we see the White Rabbit come back and he reveals his master plan with Dante. He wants his blood basically to open up the door to hell. And there's a cool fight sequence in episode 8 between him and Mary and Dante. And yeah, all that stuff's really good. It's what you would expect from an animated series based off of Devil May Cry. I don't want to go into it too much more than that just because some of the details that they have in there are just kind of pretty heavy spoilers. I know I've spoiled a lot already, but some of the stuff that happens in there is pretty heavy spoilers. We do actually get to see Virgil too is in this. I think he's been revealed in the trailers anyway, so I don't think that's a huge spoiler. But I mean, I always like the design of Virgil's character because he wears the blue trench coat, and I always like the color blue. So we do get to see his character. So he is introduced, and it looks like he's going to play a fairly major role in the second season. So whenever that comes out, I'll be curious to see it. But yeah, the I would say as far as positives go for the first season of Devil May Cry, I think the animation, again, minus the 3D animation, has been top notch. It's been really good. Some sequences have actually been exceptionally well animated. Like the plane sequence in episode 4 was awesome. The final fight sequence between Dante and the main villain of this season was really cool in episode 8. Like overall, the animation has been really top notch. Like I've really enjoyed the look of the show overall for the most part. I think some people have said they don't like Dante's design. I mean, I could take it or leave it. I like him as a character. I still think Johnny Young Bosch does a great job as the character. Um, I think the animation for him is fine. The design for him looks fine. Although I saw his design for season 2, and he definitely looks more like the classic Dante from like the original Devil May Cry game. So whenever that comes out, I think that's going to be probably a better look for him, at least kind of more closer to the video game version of him. So I'm excited to see when that finally releases. But yeah, I mean, I've been impressed with just the look of the show and just episode 6. Like I said before, just the two different animation styles in episode 6. That alone kind of won me over as far as the animation goes. It definitely seems like they really kicked it up a notch. And I'll give the show credit. In the final episode, when we get to see the main villain in his final form, they didn't use 3D animation on him, at least not that I could tell. It was actually traditional 2D animation. So I'm kind of wondering if maybe they saved more of their budget for that final fight sequence. Because overall, the animation I think was at its absolute best in the final episode. Again, besides episode 6. So animation is definitely a big plus for me. The humor is kind of hit and miss. Dante is kind of a goofball. And I gotta be honest with you, it kind of felt like they pushed him aside a little bit and kind of focused more on Mary's character. We get a lot more backstory with her. We get a lot more character development with her as well. So I wasn't super crazy about that. You know, this is Devil May Cry. I really expect the focus to be on Dante. We get a little bit about him. We get to see some of his past and see, you know, how he feels guilty because he believes he watched his brother and mother die in the fire when he was a child. And so we see a little bit of his past, but we get to see really more of Mary's past, like the stuff with her father, her growing up as a kid, the effect that demons have had on her, as well as her connection to the White Rabbit. So it really kind of felt like it was more her season than Dante's. So I wasn't overly crazy about that. I didn't mind it too much. But yeah, I would have liked it if Dante could have been had more focus in the story, just because he is basically the main character of the show. The other thing about Mary's character that I will also say too that really bugs me about her is like she keeps dropping F bombs. She does it like every other sentence. And it's not that big of a deal. It's just that nobody else in the show really does it. Like Dante, Enzo, no one else really says the F word like as much as she does. And it's I don't know. It to me, I wasn't super crazy about it. It I wouldn't necessarily say it took away from the show, but it was just one of those things where it's like, okay, Mary, just cool it, dial it down a bit. Also, just the music in the show is just every time they play a song, it's like a song from the 2000s, and like it always just throws me off. Like the Last Resort song by Papa Roach that they play. There was another one that they play as well. In episode 8, they play American Idiot by Green Day, like towards the very end. And that I almost laughed out loud. It was, I don't know if they were going for being silly with that song when they show the humans like just bombing the shit out of the demon world, but I was just like, that to me was almost like absurd. So the music for me, I guess they were going for that early 2000s vibe. Ah, I guess it works since that's the era when the Devil May Cry games first came out, but uh, I don't know. It really kind of threw me off. It threw me off balance so much that I really don't know how I feel about that exactly. Another positive I have to say is the voice actor who plays the White Rabbit. I believe his name is Hoon Lee. He is phenomenal. I think he is the standout performance in this entire season. Like everyone else, I think does a pretty good job, but he was the one that I think really stood out to me. He just really sells this character. Just every line of dialogue he has, he delivers it with such intensity, especially the scenes like where he's like really angry, where you get to see him like really kind of show his rage in his dialogue. Those scenes are always very impressive. There's just something about his character, like he has like this Shakespearean cadence to him that like I like listening to the guy talk. Like to me, the White Rabbit was probably the standout character in the entire show. And especially once you learn more about his backstory and who he is, his connection to Dante and everything and Mary, it's a pretty compelling like villain story. So for me, I felt like whenever he was on screen, I was definitely captivated by what was going on. To me, it felt like when the show hit its low point was when it focused more on like Mary and she's not a bad character necessarily. I just think if she's going to be in season 2, I hope that they kind of maybe make her a little bit more grounded and just less like maybe less friction between her and Dante would be nice. She is like I mean, I get it. She doesn't trust demons, but she is such a fucking bitch to Dante throughout the entire season and he saves her life like multiple times. And like yeah, she lightens up towards the end of the season, but like, jeez, it's just like, okay, Mary, just cool it, take it easy a little bit. He saved your life. I think you can cut him a little bit of slack. So yeah, so I think that would be probably one of my negatives is just Mary as a character. She can be a little bit annoying. Hopefully they fix that a little bit in season 2 and just make her a little bit more grounded and a little bit more likable. Yeah, the White Rabbit, great voice actor. Love the voice acting for him. As far as any other positives or negatives go, I mean, nothing else that really kind of stands out to me. I will say one thing that was kind of concerning was that in the very first episode, it kind of seemed like they were going a little bit political in the beginning. Not going to go too much into that, but I was kind of wondering, like, there's a character in the show that it seems like they're very much trying to. It's basically the president of the United States, and it definitely seems like the show is trying to portray them in a specific light that I think is I guess maybe it's supposed to be them kind of saying something about politics today. Not going to get into that too much because this is not a political podcast. Fortunately, they don't go into that too much. It's really just in the first episode, and then they come back again in the last episode. So I was happy about that. I don't like having politics shoved down my throat in my shows, so I'm glad that they didn't go into that too much. I mean, you could probably read into a few different things into this show, I guess, but overall, it feels like they've left politics out of it for the most part. So I'm happy about that. I mean, I know that every director and writer they have their own voice that they probably try to project in their shows and movies, and that's fine. It's their art. They can do what they want with it. I just personally would prefer if they just leave that stuff out of movies when I watch them. That's just my personal preference. So yeah, fortunately, that doesn't play a big part in this either. And of course, it sets up pretty nicely for season 2. Definitely sets up for future episodes. So yeah, overall, I would say, as far as whether or not I recommend this show, I mean, if you like the Devil May Cry series, and if you like, top-notch animation, I would say there's definitely something here worth checking out. I enjoyed it for the most part. It definitely has its ups and downs. Like I said, it kind of gets off to a slow start, and it feels like it does. It never feels like it really quite finds its rhythm until probably about the last half of the show. I think episode 5, probably 6 onward, I think is when the show is at its absolute best. You just kind of have to get through the first 4 episodes where it's a little bit uneven. So overall, those are my thoughts on the first season of Devil May Cry. Pretty good overall. There's definitely some work to be done in later seasons. I don't think this is anything that's going to like knock your socks off. I wouldn't say this is something that you need to check out right now. But I mean, if you're caught up on your backlog and you're looking for a decent action anime series to check out, I think this is something that's worth at least giving a quick watch. Just got to try to push through to the second half of the season. So now I want to talk about my reaction to the new Fantastic Four First Steps trailer that released a day or two ago. Film releases July 25th of this year, and I'm really excited about the casting choices in this movie. Pedro Pascal plays Mr. Fantastic. Love him, Game of Thrones, The Last of Us. I think he's a great actor. Huge fan of Pedro Pascal. Joseph Quinn plays Johnny Storm. Joseph Quinn's been in a lot of stuff lately. He's got that movie Warfare that came out recently. He was also in the latest um, Quiet Place film, and he was also in the latest season of Stranger Things. Dude's getting a lot of work, and yeah, he's definitely a very talented actor. Vanessa Kirby, who plays Susan Storm, huge fan of Vanessa Kirby. I loved her in the show The Crown. I think she's a phenomenal actress, and she's also a total babe too, so that doesn't hurt either. And this one with the blonde hair and just the way she sounds when she speaks with like the American accent, she kind of reminds me of Kate Blanchett in a way. I don't know. She kind of has this sort of like classic Hollywood elegant look to her. Again, I just think she's really cute, so maybe that's just my personal bias towards her. But yeah, I mean, I really like the way she looks in this film. I think she definitely captures the look of Susan Storm very nicely. Probably going to butcher his name, but Eben Moss Backrack plays the Thing. Ben Grimm, I believe, is his name. Who I like him as an actor. I think he's a good actor. Like I like him in the show The Bear. I liked him in season 2 of The Punisher. I will say though, and I don't think this isn't supposed to be like a crack against his acting abilities. He feels a little off as the Thing. Just like hearing his voice coming out of that character's kind of threw me off a little bit. It's not bad necessarily, but there's like a scene in the trailer where like a bunch of kids are screaming at the Thing to pick up a car and he kind of talks to them a little bit and you hear him laugh and yeah, it's the voice feels a little bit odd coming out of that character. It seems like I feel like his voice should be more booming. It should be deeper, more gravelly, because he's a giant rock, basically. But I don't know. I mean, maybe if I go see the movie, maybe I'll change my mind a little bit about that. I mean, otherwise, I don't mind it too much. I mean, I remember in the last Fantastic Four film, I can't remember the actor who plays him, but he was kind of a smaller actor, and he had kind of a higher pitched voice, and it didn't really fit the character that much either. I just realized too, we've had like what, 4 renditions now, like live action renditions of the Fantastic Four. There was like the one from like the 90s, I think, like the early 90s that looked atrocious. Then there were the 2 films with Chris Evans and Jessica Alba from like the 2000s, and then we had Fantastic, some Fanfortastic, some stupid ass name. So I guess maybe this would be the 5th one. I got to say that like the casting in this one I actually really enjoy. Even though the ones from the 2000s I liked quite a bit, those felt kind of iconic in a way, especially since we had Chris Evans reprise his role as Johnny Storm in the new Deadpool movie. As far as plot wise goes, it looks like this is basically supposed to be kind of a remake, or well, not remake, but a reimagining of the Fantastic Four 2 Rise of the Silver Surfer, just because not really giving anything away. The Silver Surfer does show up in this trailer as well as Galactus. So it seems like it's kind of a reimagining of that film, with Galactus being, I guess, kind of the main baddie. Something else in this trailer that I really liked is that this doesn't seem to be like an origin story. Like, it does show the clip in the trailer of when they go into space and they get their powers, but at least the way I'm interpreting it is it looks like in this movie they've already got their powers. We'll probably see that like in a flashback, but they show in the trailer like there's a point where a character says, you all know the story. They go into space, they get their powers. So I'm kind of hoping maybe that's a sign that like we don't need to go through the whole thing again about how the Fantastic Four came to be. Like I feel like it's kind of like Spider-Man and Batman. We know the story, we know how it happens. Like we can kind of skip that now. So I'm hoping that's where they're going with this. It seems like that's the case, especially since like Susan Storm and Mr. Fantastic are together. and it is revealed in the trailer that she's pregnant. So I'm not familiar with the comics, but like I don't know if they start out together as a couple in the comics or not. But like the fact that they're already supposed to have a kid in this movie, or they're she's supposed to have a kid, kind of tells me that this is taking place like after years of them already essentially being an established superhero team. So I'm glad they're doing that. I can only take an origin story for a superhero so much. I know you want to introduce new generations to him, but at the same time, it's kind of like I just feel like through cultural osmosis, I kind of know the characters, I know their backstory. A lot of people do. This feels a little unnecessary at times. Something else with the casting that I noticed that has me really excited for this movie is that Ralph Ineson is going to be the voice of Galactus, the actor from The Witch. Fantastic voice. Love his voice. Got that deep, really imposing baritone voice. Actually, if anything, I think his voice would have fit the thing more than Evans, but still. We don't get to hear Galactus speak in this one, but we know it is going to be Galactus like in his true form because we see his shadow, we see that big goofy ass helmet that he wears and stuff, and we see the back of his head, as well as seeing his big boots stomping around the city at the end of the trailer. So it looks like, unlike in Rise of the Silver Surfer, we are actually going to get to see Galactus in this one. So that's going to be really interesting. And something that I'm kind of curious about too is isn't Galactus supposed to be like one of the biggest, most powerful threats in Marvel Comics? Like even more powerful than Doctor Doom or Thanos? But they said that Doctor Doom is supposed to be the next big baddie in the MCU. So I'm kind of curious, like where is Galactus going to stack up in there? And how is I mean, I know the Fantastic Four is supposed to be a pretty powerful team, but I'm like, how are they going to deal with Galactus in this, especially when you've got the other Avengers films kind of in the background? I'm curious to see like how this is going to fit into the larger MCU, especially since just looking at the look of this film, it looks like it takes place in like the 50s or the 60s. Like the design of the cars and like the TVs and stuff. They had like the big, tube TVs from like the 50s. So it looks like this takes place in the past. So again, I'm not super familiar with the story, so I'm not sure how it's going to fit into the overall MCU. I mean, with the multiverse stuff, they could figure out something. I kind of wonder if maybe Galactus isn't going to show up and maybe destroy their world and they show up in this world, like in the Prime world or something. I'm not sure. I'll be interested to see how it goes. I also like just like the grim tone of the film too. Like it looks like Galactus is showing up because of something that Reed Richards did. Like he sent some kind of message out in space or something. Like he says, like he sent a message out and they heard. So I'm maybe wondering if maybe he feels like he's the one that's causing this. It seems like he and his group are trying to figure out a way to stop it from happening. And then like at one point they ask Reed Richards, like, are we safe? And he says, I don't know, but we will protect you. So it definitely feels like it's setting up a pretty grim tone despite the bright colors of the film. That's something else I want to talk about with this movie too is I like the look of it a lot. I love the bright colors like the almost like sky blue uniforms with like the Fantastic Four symbol on it. I like that look. It looks like they're kind of going for like the old Jack Kirby look from the comics that the Fantastic Four originally had. Like the Thing looks like his classic design, unlike a more modern design that I think they would have given him in some of the later films, which I really appreciated. And just like the look of the world itself, like the robot that's in their home, I just like the look. It has like that futuristic, but also kind of like retro look to it, which I think is really cool. I like that style. Kind of makes me think of the Jetsons in a way, I guess. Probably not a great comparison, but that's just kind of one of the things that popped into my head. But yeah, just like the look of this film, I really dig that. Especially like the last Fantastic Four movie was so much darker in tone. It was almost kind of like a David Cronenberg, almost like body horror esque. And this one definitely feels much more bright, much more uplifting in a way, despite the fact that it kind of has a doom and gloom feel to it with Galactus showing up. And then I'll just talk about it. Julia Garner is playing the Silver Surfer in this one. They recast the Silver Surfer as a woman. Personally, I don't give a shit about this. I haven't followed this too closely, so I don't know if there's been a lot of outrage over this, but I can see a lot of people just losing their collective shit about this. I don't know much about the Silver Surfer, and I didn't read the Fantastic Four comics, so I don't know much about that. I remember in the original, the Silver Surfer was played by a male actor. I don't remember who it was. I mean, I think traditionally the character's been a man in the comics. I mean, I don't really have a horse in this race. Like, I'm pretty excited to see it, and I like the Fantastic Four movies from what I've seen, but like, I'm not losing sleep over this. Like, as long as she plays the role well, I'm not really too worried about it. Like, I mean, the design of the character, it's the Silver Surfer. I mean, again, I don't really care about the character that much. She looks pretty imposing in the trailer. the scene where Johnny Storm chases her into space and then his powers wear off and he falls back down towards the planet. Yeah, I mean those reminded me of the Fantastic Four 2 back in the 2000s. So again, that's another reason why this kind of makes me think this is just kind of like a reboot of that movie, but I don't really have any strong feelings towards her as a Silver Surfer one way or the other. I'm going to wait and see, once this movie comes out, if I go to see it for myself and kind of give my own thoughts on how her performance is. So, yeah, I'm not too worried about that. I will say though, it would be kind of funny, even though Ralph Ineson playing, hope I'm not butchering his name, even though he's playing Galactus, it would be kind of funny if Galactus showed up and just had like the most unexpected voice ever. Like he just kind of shows up and he's like, "Hey, yo, I'm Galactus. I'm here to eat your fucking planet or some shit." I don't know. Yeah, I sent the Silver Surfer. She told you a bunch of stuff about me, I'm sure, and now I'm here. You guys ain't gonna stop me. I mean, I eat planets for a living. You ain't gonna fucking stop me. And what do you got down here? You got a stretchy guy. You got some blonde bitch. You got a guy who's on fire, and you got a fucking rock. All right, I'm gonna eat you now. I mean, yeah, if he came down and sounded like Silvio Dante from The Sopranos, I mean, I'd be on board with that too. That would also be entertaining as hell. But yeah, I'm excited for this movie. I'll probably check it out in theaters when it releases. I haven't seen other than Deadpool and Wolverine, I haven't seen a lot of superhero films in the theaters, and this definitely seems like something that's worth checking out with on the silver screens, like a big screen and surround sound in front of you, like IMAX. So it's not too far away, which is crazy that we're that far into the year already. But all right, everyone. I think that's going to conclude tonight's episode. Once again, if you like what you heard, I am on Anchor, Spotify, and YouTube. Please feel free to like, share, and subscribe. It really helps me out a lot, and I definitely appreciate it. And I will catch you all next time. Take care, everyone.